So I've been thinking about whether it's accurate to describe the relationship between men and women, to describe it as being about men being addicted to women. So I'm thinking that that is an accurate view of how things are. And now I'm wondering of how women are attracted to men. Is it the same thing going on? And initially I'm thinking there isn't the same thing going on. So men are addicted to women and so pursue women for sex and reproduction. But I think women are in a different position, I suppose, because women manufacture human beings. Their role and their position is different, and I think the way they view men is probably different as well. So I am trying to imagine being a woman and how I would see things. I suppose I would be looking for someone who I believe could support me emotionally and financially, and who seems to have good genes. And seems physically strong and viable, and has a good work ethic, and is loyal. In other words, women are more in a position of an employer judging a potential employee. It does seem to be very different to the way a man might view a woman. So I'm wondering if it's accurate to describe a relationship in terms of one person being in control, the man or the woman being dominant in how that relationship happens. Because it does seem a bit like the woman is more in the position of employer and the man as employee. So it seems as if the man applies to the employer to try and form a relationship. In other words, women are dominant in the relationship game. Women are in control and are setting the rules, and men are applying to have a role in the relationship. So men, in a sense, have to perform and demonstrate their viability. So a man has to essentially prove himself to a woman. And I think this concept is described by films and stories and whatever, and literature, showing a man proving himself to a woman, demonstrating his worth. I'm not sure it's the other way around. I'm not aware of a woman needing to demonstrate to a man qualities that she might have. I think her beauty suffices to demonstrate her worth. In other words, a woman needs to do less in order to form a relationship. The man seems to be the one who jumps through hoops. I suppose biology sets the rules of the game. A man has to perform to prove his worth to a woman who naturally and automatically has the ability to manufacture a child. I hesitate to say create a child because I'm not keen on upsetting people about how life comes into being and all that business. So I am wondering, probably for the first time in my life, how a woman views a man in terms of forming a relationship. I suppose a woman looks for qualities in the man that can support her and make it possible for her to be pregnant for 9 months and then be raising a child. So she's looking for a man who can provide, basically. A man doesn't look to a woman for provision of any material things. He just looks at her as her. So her beauty is everything. Whereas a woman looks at a man and looks to his resources. It's not just about him as a man. It's about him as a provider and a protector. So the way that men and women relate seems to be very different, and what men and women look for in each other is very different. So a woman looks much more for what a man can do rather than who he is, I would say, initially. A man looks for a woman in terms of what she is rather than anything that she does in her life. It's interesting how men and women see each other in very different ways. As a man is motivated from very young, I suppose, to achieve and learn things and skills and whatever, to prove himself essentially to a woman. A woman has much less impetus, much less need to develop and learn skills. I think this explains to an extent why men achieve more in many fields of endeavor. Men have a greater motivation to achieve so that he can be selected by a woman.